Labvakar, mīļie draugi! Good evening, dear friends! I'm glad you are here with me in this video called Phrasebook 1. Let me tell you a bit what this phrasebook actually is. If you have watched the first video lesson, you might have heard about the two copybooks we were planning to have. The first one was called Dictionary, where we were going to write down any new words we learned during the lesson. The second copybook is called just an ordinary copybook. It has no name actually. This is the one where we were going to write down all the grammar rules and everything we need to memorize the vocabulary to get aware of how the language works. And now I'd like you to open up either of those two copybooks on the last page. This is where we are going to write down different phrases, language cliches, sentences that we'll be learning by heart without thinking of what grammar rules are present there, what vocabulary things we can spot. Oh, we'll just memorize, just like record them into our mind like a telephone, like a recorder would do, and then just speak this out without thinking, without analyzing. Yes, this is the way how little kids learn. This is the way how parrots start talking, and we'll be using this method also. There are actually two main methods when we are acquiring a new language. We can use a creative approach and this parrot-like style that we have just mentioned. What is a creative approach? This is quite a time and energy consuming method when we get all these new words on a list, when we learn different grammar rules. So we just pick up different beads, which are the words, and put them on a thread according to the rules, according to the grammar. This way the thread will look beautiful in the end, and the natives would understand what we are speaking about actually. So this method is more than useful. We can never express our thoughts. We can never tell stories. We can never describe what is going on around us, what was in the past, what is going to happen in the future. Without knowing the rules and the words, we will never create anything in a foreign language. But the minuses of this approach is that it's quite a slow one, and it really requires a lot of energy, a lot of effort. We have to spend time just pushing those things in our brains, making them sink in. It takes quite a long time and it requires some effort. This is the minus. The second approach, which is a parrot-like approach, means that we just hear or see a phrase and memorize it just the way it is, without any analysis, without thinking how it's been designed, what rules are present there, what vocabulary parts we can put inside it, how can we combine it with the other options. No, we just take a sentence and memorize it, right? And when the situation tells us to do this, we just recall it and speak it out, say it aloud without thinking again. We just have that signal that such a phrase might be needed and just say it. This is how we work. This is what parrots do. This is what little kids do when they just learn how to speak. But an adult person would never survive without grammar rules. There are those different language classes where they say, oh, something is wrong with our language lessons because we are being taught all these rules. Why should we do this? This is ineffective. Look at those little kids. They never learn vocabulary, but they start speaking at the age of 2 years old or less, or sometimes more. But this is how it works with kids, right? Not with adults. We are a bit different. I'm a specialist called andragogue, which means that I am responsible for teaching adults, right? So kids' memory can work this way, but this mechanism just switches off at a certain point, and adults, they can take parts of this approach like we would do in this phrasebook, but it's not the only and the main method that should be used while teaching adults. Okay, I made a little digression, and now I guess it's time for us to actually start writing down the phrases for our first phrasebook part. This first part of our phrasebook will include 4 main sections. Section 1, different greetings, ways of saying hello to each other. Part 2, ways of saying goodbye in Latvian. Part 3, these short words yes and no. Short, yet important. Sometimes crucial. The last couple of words will be I'm sorry and excuse me. Please get ready, pick up your pen, open up your phrasebook. Let's begin. Part 1, greetings. There are different kinds of greetings in Latvian. The first half will be connected with the time of the day that is present right now. The second part will not be anyhow dependent on the daytime, right? Let's begin with the first half. Good morning. In Latvian it sounds like labrīt. I hope you have learned how to roll the R. Labrīt. Rīts, it means morning. Labs, it means good. And if you have watched the first video lesson, you already know that sometimes the stress in Latvian words is on the second syllable. Most of the time it's on the first one, but there are some exceptions. And right now we're dealing with an exception. Here the stress is on a letter E. Labrīt. Yeah, this I that has garumzīme, this little dash above, it means that the sound is long. Yeah, you have to make it like 2.5 times longer than the ordinary I. Yeah, labrīt. It means good morning. Greeting number 2. Good afternoon. Labdien. Diena is day, and labs, again, it means good, like good day, good afternoon. Labdien. And again, we have that stress on the second syllable. What we have in this word dien, in this half, which sounds like dien, it's what is called diphthong. We have ie, yeah, those 2 letters together, and they just sound like, it sounds similar to one sound, ia, ia. Labdien. So I hope you have put the stress on the right syllable and we can move ahead. The second greeting is good evening. Labvakar. This is the word labvakar. Again, the second syllable is under stress. It's labvakar. And another funny thing that we spot here is that the K, the sound K, sounds as if there were 2 letters K in this word, yeah, labvakar. So if you write down the transcription of it, see how it looks, labvakar. So we kind of make this consonant K double. This is how the reading rules work. If there is a consonant between 2 vowels, it sometimes sounds long, like in this case, labvakar, labvakar. So some other examples will appear here. Kafija, which means, just guess what it means, kafija. It means coffee. Coffee, kafija. So one F, but it actually sounds as if there were 2 letters F in this word. Kafija, kasse, it means something like cashier or cash desk. Yeah, actually it's a cash desk. Then we have the word tasse. If you have learned German, it seems to me that in German there was a similar word, but if not, what is Tasse? Tasse, what is Tasse? Tasse means a cup, like a cup of tea, right? Tasse teijas. Okay, so you see such consonants when they get in between of 2 vowels, they most of the time are pronounced in a long way, right? As if there were 2 letters of this kind. Labvakar, let's get back to our greetings. Labvakar means good evening. Then something that looks less as a greeting, more as a way to say goodbye. Ar labu nakti. Ar labu nakti. It means good night. We don't often greet each other saying this phrase, do we? It's a way to say goodbye, a goodbye phrase. So, have you memorized all 4 of those? Let me check you in a random order. Good day, good afternoon. Labdien, good morning. Labrīt, good night. Ar labu nakti, good evening. Good evening. Labvakar. Right, now it's time for us to study some greetings that don't depend on the daytime. There are ways to say hi and hello that depend on the gender and on the fact if the word is plural or singular. If we say hi to a boy or a man, we get the word sveiks. Sveiks. If there is a girl in front of us, then the greeting turns into sveika. See, it's the same as sveiks, but with an A at the end. This A in the Latvian alphabet is called A. Sveiks boy, sveika girl. If we have multiple people in front of us, we say them sveiki. Sveiki. Sveiki is a plural form of hi or hello when addressed either to different male beings or male and female at the same time. I mean, if there is like a class where there are both boys and girls. If there is a group of ladies only, we say to them sveikas. The ending will look like us. Sveikas. Weird, isn't it? Not in many languages we can see such things that the greeting depends on the person whom we greet. All 4 options are kind of informal. We say so when we address to people that we know well, that are of the same age as us. Sveiks. Sveika, sveiki, sveikas. Do I look like an Indian dancer now? Okay, now let me check you once again. If we say hello to your grandmother, how will you greet her in Latvian? Imagine you have a Latvian grandmother. By the way, most of my students have Latvian grandmothers or grandfathers, so you may be one of those. How do we say hi, grandma? We say sveika. If we greet both our grandma and our granddad, what will the greeting sound like? Sveiki. What if you greet your girlfriend? Sveika. What if you greet your dad and your brother? Sveiki. Now let's say hello to your mum and her sister. Sveikas. What if you say hello to your boyfriend? Sveiks. I hope you have memorized it well. Let's move ahead. There are actually some more ways of greeting which are, for example, sveicināti, esiet sveicināti, but these are less commonly used, so let's just keep those in mind. Actually, when we have no time to think whether there are boys or girls, how many of them are there, we can just say sveiki as a neutral way of hi. This one you may also keep in mind. So if you are stressed out, you have no time to think, you may just say sveiki and move ahead. Once comes a moment to say goodbye. Let's study some ways of saying goodbye in Latvian. Phrase number 1. Goodbye. Or see you later. Actually, it means until the moment of our next meeting. This is the actual meaning to it. Let's say uz redzēšanos. Uz redzēšanos. Don't you worry, you're not the only person to whom this word seems troublesome. It really is, it's quite a long one. It contains a lot of difficult consonant sounds in it. But let's just exercise a bit. Uz redzēšanos. Uz redzēšanos. It's an official way to say bye. Uz, it means until, and redzēt, it means to see. So, uz redzēšanos means until the moment when we see each other next. An informal way of saying goodbye in Latvian is this one, ata. Here we stress the second syllable too. Ata means like bye-bye. This one we can say to a friend, to a relative. It's not very formal. Another option is visu labu. Visu labu. It means I wish you all the best. But it's also a common way to say goodbye. If we have said visu labu, we don't have to add uz redzēšanos or ata. It already means something like goodbye. A thing that has been stolen from Italian, I guess, is this version ciao. It really sounds like ciao. This is also an informal version. Sometimes we can even greet a person pronouncing this ciao, but I'd say we use it more commonly when we say goodbye. Ciao. Bye-bye. There are definitely more options to say goodbye in Latvian, but I'd like you first to memorize those ones. Don't get lost in these. The next couple of words we're going to discuss is yes and no. Yes sounds like ja. Be careful, pronounce the ah sound in a long way, ja, because if you say in a short way, ja, it will mean a different thing. It means if. No sounds like nē, nē. Again, we have this garumzīme, which is the sign of length above the letter e. Nē means no. And before we wrap up, let's have a look at some ways of saying excuse me or I'm sorry. Is there any difference between excuse me and I'm sorry? There is some. So sorry is something we say when we have done something bad. Excuse me is more commonly used when we'd like to drag somebody's attention to us. But in Latvian there are two options which don't have as much of a difference. I can say you can use both words in both situations, when we have to ask somebody to forgive us or when we just want somebody to look at us, to hear us. The first one is atvaino. The infinitive form of this word is atvainot. It actually means to forgive. If we are speaking to a person in an informal way, in Latvian it will be called uz tu, which means just addressing to a person using the informal version of you. Yeah? You. This way we say atvaino. It's an imperative. Please forgive. Forgive me. Atvaino. And if we'd like to say the same thing to a person with whom we have formal relationships, I mean the ones who are some bosses at work, somebody who is much older than us, this is the word we say to them. Atvainojiet. Atvainojiet. This is the form uz jūs, let's put it that way. So if you call you jūs, it means you are using the formal, the official version of you. And this way you'd rather say atvainojiet. So atvaino is like forgive me, friend, mate, and atvainojiet is like I'm sorry, sir or madam, something that we use in some formal environment. The synonym of atvainot is piedot. Piedot also means to excuse or to forgive. If you'd like to say sorry to somebody in an informal way, you say piedot. Piedod lūdzu. Please forgive me, please excuse me. Do you have any guess of how we pronounce the formal form of this? Piedodiet. Piedot, piedodiet. Piedodiet is like, excuse me, sir, or I'm sorry, sir. Piedot, excuse me, mate. Excuse me, friend. Okay? Was that difficult? I don't think so. Well, everything seems difficult when we're looking at it for the first time. You may watch this video several times to make all those expressions sink in, write them down, put them on a sticky note, place the sticky note somewhere where you commonly are. And if you feel like, subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, please write down your comments below, write me emails using the email address in the description of the video. And I will be really glad to see you in the next part of this phrasebook and in the next video lesson. Have a lovely day! Bye bye! Uz redzēšanos! Ātā! Visu labu!